Hey everybody, Mac and Damon here for OCR Kings Post Run. We're outdoors. We just put in a quick 5K and came to our attention that our friend, the self-described OCR Kings reporter at large, David Best,
That's right.
he sent us the 2025 Spartan Cincinnati race review. Sounds like it was a mudfest quasi-disaster out there.
Quite the adventure coming from David.
And from what I've read so far, it looks like you're planning on doing an ultra. Don't plan on doing it here because according to him, there was a 74% DNF rate.
Yeah, on the ultras.
Ouch.
Yes.
Now, we'll provide a link to this unabridged sit rep on our blog so you can read everything that David has to say. But, we're going to hit the highlights. And without further ado, he describes his course as a vicious, life-sucking bitch from which there is no escape. Not off to a good start about Cincinnati. Right. And he can thank his arch nemesis and Spartan tormentor, who he calls Darth Vader, a.k.a. the race director.
Yep.
This was held on June 7th and 8th, and he, quote, truly painted a masterpiece of pain and anguish. And the canvas was used... specifically, Perfect North Slope Ski Resort in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. It was a 15.2-mile beast course, he says, of course, before the penalty loops, and a soul-sucking test of mental and physical stamina.
That's right. So he did participate in this same race in 2023, and he vowed to never return. Well, guess what David did? he returned.
He probably shouldn't have.
He shouldn't have, and in fact, he said that the 2025 race, compared to what he completed in 2023, was way worse, way more difficult.
Yikes.
So whether that was a combination of worse weather or from the race director, Tyler Andrew Spencer, and his course layout. Either way, it was quite an ordeal, as per David. So great job by David for completing.
Yep.
And certainly describing the race blow by blow.
Well, as far as the logistics and venue information, he says he has a love-hate relationship with this venue, and I'm definitely picking that up from his text over here. So let's start with the love. He loves the proximity of the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Airport to both the city of Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and Perfect North Slope Ski Resort.
So close in and out, and easier travel. That's cool.
Absolutely. In 35 minutes, you're in town or at the venue from the airport. The ski resort is one of the nicer venue sites on the schedule, as we Spartans have full access to the resort and amenities. That means bathrooms, so that's important to me. Outstanding.
Like everything is kind of indoors. That's cool. They even had food options, is what I read. So even dining options available. Sounds like they really took care of spectators. Some great viewing areas, and you could even watch from indoors.
That's amazing.
Enjoying your favorite beverage.
Yeah, so we're doing that right now, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
So the Spartan members area was indoors as well, and you bag check a large open area for all in attendance. That's fantastic.
So now the bad. This was a tough course. And as we've seen at other Spartan races this season, weather has played a part. With this race, no exception. Yeah. So, that's kind of actually been the case.
Yeah.
Mac and I were just talking about that because it was like what we've seen, and even us just trying to do the weekends we save for the longer training miles. And it's been
rain,
it's just been pretty
mud and crap.
Yeah, so no surprise, this area has had its share of rain, and that meant mud.
Yep, and he said a lot of racers losing their balance and hurting themselves. Yeah. In other words, gravity is a bitch. Yeah, got to be careful out there on the slopes. The course started out with a muddy Armageddon into the corral, and then onto the course where you hit a nice knee-deep mud bog to start the day off right. Holy crap. All right, so, the obstacles then proceed after that, but when you're starting out with knee-deep mud, yikes. This was the first time he's ever done a Spartan race where they had to have a guide rope and a volunteer stationed at the creek to ensure safety. Yeesh.
Right, yep, and he even watched a fellow young lady racer fall, but don't worry, David saved the day and jumped in to assist.
Maximus Bestimus Delirious leapt into action and saved her from impending doom as she was being swept downstream. Way to go,
That's
Mr.
right.
David Best. Right
He
on.
says in hindsight, though, she would probably have been fine.
Now we'll edit that out. We should have some graphics.
But he's a hero. That's right.
Stunt double jumping in there.
AI, do something
That's
good.
right.
Do something cool right there.
Awesome. All right, so they had hay roll walls to over-unders. Okay, Spartan used what was on site. That's cool.
Yeah, I like when they do
And
that.
let's see, 6-foot wall, multi-rig, then a second creek crossing just as the first, but they were giving a bonus of a rope climb out of the creek and up a muddy bank to Atlas carry, rope climb, bucket carry, etc. I think that's pretty cool. Coming out of the water, you got some ropes to climb. That's cool.
A little different. Yep.
Okay, they did have a dunk wall. We haven't seen dunk wall yet this year.
Yeah, you're right.
It's kind of interesting that
Yep.
they had it there. That's very good. But to me, I think that the most striking thing he mentions is that they had snow.
Yeah,
Snow in June.
Interesting. He said the first part of the course was relatively flat. Then the hills began, where you hit Helix Twister, Olympus Beater, and then another hill to Bender, and then a snow climb.
That
So I was
is
like,
insane.
snow in June. So that is pretty nuts.
And apparently, Darth Vader, the course director, put the 8-foot wall on, I guess, an incline, making it more like a 10-foot wall. Yikes. The Ultra course actually had a 10-foot wall, I guess, on the spur. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep, that is aggressive. Yep. So he's like, he spent some time going up and down and up, and then down multiple very muddy hills, dodging down trees, as well as occasional downed racers.
Z-Wall, I guess, had a high failure rate due to it being at the bottom of a hill where all the water ran from the barbed wire crawl, causing a muddy quagmire where footing was almost impossible.
Yeah.
So a lot of mud at this venue. Holy cow. He said he was never so happy to see a fire jump in all of his life.
Yeah.
Not an obstacle,
I don't know.
a relief.
There were some times where we're on the course and then you start to hear the music.
Yeah, and you can smell the fire.
And
And
you
you're just
just
like,
know, you know you're wrapping
Yeah.
this thing up. And it was like you start running a little faster.
Absolutely. So
That's
final thoughts and recommendations. There are 3 race venues on the USA Spartan schedule that will give you a true evaluation of where you are in Spartan. Big Bear, Killington, and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Where you rank them really depends on what race director you get and how bad they want to torment you. He spoke to the race director for this venue and told him not to take it personally what was being said about him, because it wasn't that Spartan talking, it was their weakness talking.
I don't
You
know.
should know because-
bitching is just part of the game.
It's part of he said during the survival challenge. I don't know. I know Killington with that elevation there is something
Is
next
very
level.
aggressive. Yep.
It sounds like this one with the mud is
Yeah,
crazy,
mud and
and
some
the
snow
altitude
and
of Big
those are
Bear is
interesting, yep.
that's really
There's no joke. So
Yeah.
yep.
So they had rain Saturday night, and it caused those creek crossings to crest at over 6 feet.
Yep.
So if you're on the shorter side, you're swimming.
Yeah. So they actually had to reroute the Sunday super sprint course, actually cut off a couple obstacles and avoid those river crossings. So yeah, that seems
crazy.
to happen though. So even his recommendation is to think about it, or
Yeah.
maybe even get insurance.
Yep.
It was like, just in case. You never know for a Sunday race.
And he said, sign up for the Beast only on Saturday. Okay, because I guess if they're going to reroute something and you don't have the insurance, you might be out of luck if you're doing a Sunday race. Spartan isn't just about brawn, writes David. It's also about brains and knowing when it's better to withdraw so you can fight another day. Maybe this race would be one of those. Okay, if you're facing that much mud, or like we were, lightning and course evacuations, maybe
Yes.
it's better to,
Yeah, you never know.
to retreat and fight another day.
Yes.
So this is David. Until his next report, this has been your OCR Kings reporter at large, David Best,
Yes.
bringing you all the best that Spartan offers us. David,
right.
thank you again for these. These are great.
David killing it as usual.
As usual, sounds like you had an epic adventure out there.
Getting it done.
Quoting Wayne and Garth, we're not worthy.
Yes.
So thank you, David. Appreciate it. We hope to see you out there on the course. But until that time, remember, as always, train hard.
Have fun.